Welcome to season 2 of No Shelf Control, the podcast with books, booze, and banter, hosted by authors for readers, because let's face it, we're all bookworms at heart.
This season, we're chatting about book-to-screen adaptations and trending book talk books. I'm Lindsey Sparks.
And I'm Lindsey Pogue. Grab a cocktail or mocktail, kick back, and enjoy the show. Woo. Yay! Okay, welcome to this episode, everybody. I think it's going to be an interesting one to discuss. We are, both of us Lindseys are here. We are talking about, today we're doing the book to screen adaptations. So, we chose, I remember we struggled with this last time, Lindsey.
I know.
Anyway,
you can do it.
We did The School of Good and Evil by Soman Chainani. What did you say? How did you?
In my head, I say it Soman Chainani or something like that. I know it's a guy. That's helpful.
That's actually really fascinating. After reading that story. Interesting. I did not know that. Very cool though. That actually makes it really interesting. More interesting. Anyway, so welcome. It is hump day. Well, hump evening.
As it usually is when we record, for whatever reason.
Yeah, for some reason we seem to pick Wednesdays. But yes, it's evening. I think we're winding down. I'm sure you're winding down. I just ate some dinner and ran in here.
Just got the kids down.
Yeah.
And took a quick shower, which is why my hair is wet. So everybody gets to enjoy this.
Well, I've been cleaning my house and running around doctor's appointments. So this is me unshowered. So you're welcome, everybody. You're welcome. Anyways, so welcome to tonight's episode. Before we dive into book stuff, as always, wanted to check in, kind of ground ourselves. Okay, so it's the middle of the week. I know we've both had a lot of randomness going on, especially with our book release that's coming up next week.
Yeah.
Actually, when this airs, it's going to be on the next day, Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So the 7th. So
listeners in the future, it's tomorrow.
Yeah. So anyways, we've been gearing up for the Raven Queen release.
Yes.
Trying to get all of our
we have some like fun like announcements, I guess, related to that. I don't know. I mean, so like, first off, I know we both added World After to our subscriber libraries. So if you are a newsletter subscriber to either of our newsletters, you can get access to that ebook for free now, which is the prequel, which is a full novel prequel before the Raven Queen. And then also, I think we both shared this in our Discords. So if you join our Discords, you can get access to the first 4 chapters of the Raven Queen. Did you share that? I know I did.
I think I did. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I did though.
Yeah.
Sorry. Don't ask me what I had for dinner 5 minutes ago. I won't be able to tell you. But yeah, so that, and then after the ending too.
Oh yeah, and After the Ending is also exclusively free on our newsletter, or to our newsletter subscribers.
Yeah, it's no longer free for anyone else. So
yeah, we had it free like everywhere for a long time. But we decided it was time
to switch things up a bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a way for people to get it for free. So yeah, I mean,
there you go. Yeah, so I mean, that's just like one of a gazillion things we've been doing, but yeah, so those are some fun updates. I will just say this, as I'm trying not to sneeze, I can feel it in my nose in this very moment. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna press on. Let's see how this goes. I know we don't usually do this, but I wanted to talk about shows that I'm watching.
Oh, okay.
I know we don't usually do this, but I usually don't have a lot of shows that I really, really love. And I just wanted to put this out there for anybody. I've been talking about it a lot in my Discord group. Anybody there's a lot of things that people tell you should watch, and they may or may not, strike a chord with you. I felt that way with I was telling Lindsey earlier that Game of Thrones, the new House of the Dragon. I can't. I only have 2 episodes left. I'm really struggling. But that aside, when I got back from my trip, my chaotic trip of nothing that went according to plan, I had all these shows that had like premiered while I was gone, and I have not caught up on really most of them, but I did binge watch like my first weekend home, The Power of the Rings, and I just want to recommend that to everybody because I loved it. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, definitely. I love all the Easter eggs and all the explanations from Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. But I wanted to tell you too, because I know a lot of our listeners, or at least a lot of my listeners, they really like the post-apocalyptic stuff. And I just started a couple days ago the Last of Us, and I know that premiered while I was gone too. So I started watching it last night, and I am addicted. It's so good. The problem is because it's HBO Max, there's only 3 episodes. So I refrained from watching episode 3 because I'm waiting to get him some build up.
We also have not watched episode 3. We watched the first 2 episodes last week sometime.
So I just have to say, and I'm interested to know what Adam thought, because Dennis never really likes the shows that I like, and Dennis actually likes this show. So
yeah, he likes it.
Like,
he was really, so he doesn't like zombie shows. So I'll preface this by saying that. So he was like, I was like, it's post-apocalyptic. It's kind of zombie-ish, but it's a fungus, so it's different.
It's so crazy.
I know. It's really creepy. I played the video game. So I know I didn't finish the video game. So I don't know the entire story, but I played the video game and maybe like half of it. And the video game is an amazing story on its own. And everybody kind of knew that it was going to become a movie. They were like, this has to be a movie or a series or something. Like, it's so good. Some video games have amazing, I think people who don't play video games don't know this, but some video games have amazing stories. They use amazing writers. Like, even some of my like vast RPG video games, it's the story, the quest, the like interactions with the other characters and the NPCs that really keeps you going. So it's definitely I feel like an underappreciated art or craft.
I feel like a lot, like you just think even Tomb Raider is such a really cool
Tomb Raider concept. Has amazing stories. The 3 new Tomb Raider games, newest ones, all have amazing stories. They are really good.
So I think I totally see where you're coming with that, because I was also talking to Dennis about that last night. I was like, I feel as if there are a few different songs that I have found that became famous because they were in video games. I'm like, what was
video game trailers?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, amazing. And let's just say video game trailers now and the videos that go with them are so realistic now. It's insane. But I feel like there's been a couple of shows that I've seen that I was just like, God, these are amazing stories. I never realized with video games that they got this in depth. You know?
The Witcher. I know it's books also, but it's the video games that really made it take off.
Yeah, that's really cool. But anyway, I think it's the only reason why, like, I've seen a gazillion post-apocalyptic shows, dystopian shows, whatever. We've talked about a few of them. Some of them are hit and miss, but this one, I think for me, as far as a show, obviously I've never played the game. I don't play video games because I feel very uncoordinated and incapable. But I just want to say that this is one of those shows where, for me, I think the reason why I like it so much is from the very first, like, you feel something for these characters, and it's every single episode is like just stick a knife in my heart. But those are the things you want to feel, right? You want to be moved by a show. So anyway.
It's a really good show. I mean, again, anybody who's played the video game knows about a thing that happens at the very beginning. And so I was prepared for that thing. And I didn't warn Adam though. But he likes it. He's into it. Like, but he did say it went from Outbreak episode 1 to, for the most part, to like later episode 2
with the creepy cool
like 20 years later or something like that. And he was really happy that it wasn't just all going to continue the Outbreak part. He was like, that part doesn't interest me as much.
Yeah.
I'm
sure
he was happy to see like the world leader. So.
And the reason why I texted you last night, the reason why I want to make sure you're watching it is because Olive's in it from the Fringe.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I was really excited to see her. I love her.
I do too.
Talking about shows that are great. The Fringe was a great show.
So good.
And I think one of the things that I loved the most about that show, sorry to like totally derail this.
It's okay. I'm going to bring us back in just a second, but we have to talk about this.
Olivia was an FBI agent. And she almost never wore visible makeup. She almost never was like, she was never fancied up. Her hair was in a ponytail or down. She wore flat shoes and very practical clothing. And I was like, this is realistic. Like she's a very attractive woman. The actress is very attractive, but they made her look like she could be an actual
normal,
FBI agent. I'm like, this is great.
It was so clever too. All of it was so cool.
Yeah, it's a really good show. If you haven't watched The Fringe, it's, I don't know, like early 2000s, like 2010. I'm not sure when it was, but it's like a little older.
I think that was the first show I ever took Jonathan Jackson. I think that's his name. Joshua Jackson. Yeah. From Pacey from Dawson's Creek, like super serious because he was in other movies too.
He was great in that.
He's so good. They're all so good. But anyway, we are way off topic, but I just wanted to say for all you listeners out there who are looking for a show,
an old show and a new one.
Yeah. Like anyway, there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
And we can move on. So back to this moment in time. Do you have any tea, anything you're drinking tonight on this
water?
Cool winter's eve?
Delicious, crisp, clean water.
Same here. I have absolutely nothing spectacular to check in about.
Sorry for our booze, books and banter podcast.
Well, it's hard too because I guess sometimes I think it just depends because we do it so late. It's like we go to bed afterwards. So it's kind of, you have to really be in the mood to just have some wine or whatever.
I know.
Anyway, I mean, let's be clear. I am no prude when it comes to drinking, but
yes, I am generally in the mood to have some wine. I just have to use self-restraint.
Yeah. Sometimes it just sounds a little better than others. So anyway, yes, I'm trying to practice my responsible adulting skills, guys. So
I did intend to make some tea, but then I got down to the kitchen and it didn't sound very good, so I didn't.
Yeah, I feel you. That's kind of how it works when I'm like, you know what, wine sounds really good, but by the time I go and get it and open it, I'm like, it's kind of past. Something's wrong with my brain. Okay, what have you been working on since last we checked in for the podcast? Not us, because
oh my god, we've been talking like every day. For Lindsey, this is going to be like repeat number 8,000, but for listeners, I finally finished getting my beta draft of Darkness Between the Stars done. I had to do it in 2 parts because I was going to miss my deadlines. So beta readers have that. So that feels good. I don't have to think about it for a little bit until I have to read the feedback and then think about it again.
Lame.
I know. So yeah, it feels really good just to like have shed that for a moment. And then other than that, I'm working on some Patreon stuff. That's it. I'm getting ready for our book release.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Because I feel like it's hard because I mean, we thought it through, but did we really think it through when we were thinking about doing all of the cover reveals for the ending series leading up to the release was just kind of a lot.
I know. And I remember spreading them out one a week was my idea, and I was like, it'll be great. It fits in the timeline perfect leading right up to the release. So we'll be active talking about the world, and then but it just, I don't know. It ended up being a lot.
Well, and it's not as easy as just throwing a post up, right? I mean, there's multiple platforms. There's like a whole, you have to schedule things. I mean, it's not like we can just sit at the computer and just post things whenever we feel like it. we have to have some restraint. And I mean, I think for me too, I got a lot of it done before I left on my trip, and then I came back, and then I had so much going on that it's just kind of hard to like ground yourself. It takes time to ground yourself again in the moment, and then by the time it's like here, and then you're like, oh my god, everything's happening. But anyway, yeah, but it's not, none of it's bad. It's just, yeah, there's been a lot going on. So our newsletter subscribers and Discord peeps and Patreon peeps and everybody have been getting a lot of emails from us lately.
Yeah.
If you follow us on any of the social media, you also yeah, you've probably been seeing a lot of stuff posted. So anyway, we've had a lot going on. But I guess that's not a bad thing. So
no, yeah, it's been, I mean, it made us active. It made us be active in the world, which was kind of the point.
Yeah.
So, in that fictional world, not just like in our world that we live in. I mean, like,
well, and that's the other thing too, is I think a lot of times we're so busy in our own work, our solo stuff, that we kind of neglect the ending series. So it's been kind of nice to like focus on it a little bit more again, and really enjoy the covers that we spent all this time and energy on, and and kind of like and re-engage with the readers who found us that way too, because a lot of, I mean, they've been kind of, you know, waiting for a long time. Yeah, so,
I know.
But anyway, so that's really nice too,
and it's been really nice. Like, we sent out a bunch of arcs to advanced readers and like some bookstagram people and stuff, and it's been really fun to see the response to the book, especially from people who are completely unfamiliar with that.
Yeah,
world.
I agree with that. That's
so
nice.
That's always exciting.
Yeah.
You know, it always feels like a huge accomplishment when you like reach someone new.
Yeah, it actually does, because then it's like, it's amazing when endingers are excited about the next book coming out. But and I guess there is no but. I mean, it's an amazing feeling.
That is amazing. Yeah. And
we
always like
it
think
also
about
is a
them.
completely different, it's almost a different high when somebody who isn't familiar with ending series likes stuff in the same world, because I feel like if I'm a diehard for something, even if it's not amazing, I'm going to love it. Like, I think of every Bruce Willis movie. Obviously, they're not all great, but he's Bruce Willis and I love him. So whatever, I'm going to watch it, even if it's horrible. Right. So it's just, I'm not saying that these books are horrible, but I am saying that, I mean, when you're a diehard, you're a diehard. And so it's really nice to have some new blood in there, just kind of reminding us that, you know, the series doesn't suck.
I know. And I feel like between us, like in private, we kind of like poo-poo on some of it. Because,
well, when you say some of it, we're not talking about readers. We're talking about our writing.
Our writing.
Yeah. Back in the day when we wrote the series. Yeah.
We have grown so much as writers. Yeah. So it's weird for us to go back and read those books. Because there's a million different things that we would have done differently, or even just worded 100%. Differently, right. Or like plot wise done. I mean, like, there's so much stuff. And yeah, I think it's like that with every person who creates things. I'm sure that when you look at the things that you created, the longer it's been since you created that thing, the more kind of like you cringe when you look at it. Or maybe it's just us, but either way, we're like, that's how we feel. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that makes sense 100%.
Yeah.
So anyway, but overall, it's really exciting. It's so exciting. And I know both of us are ecstatic to finally get this book in the world.
And I've already had like one of my readers who's been a reader of my books, but hasn't crossed into like the ending world books. She is on my advanced reader team, and she read The Raven Queen, and then she went back and read all of the ending series like in a week, she said, and like devoured it. And I was like, that's
so
great.
Cool. You know, and it's funny too, because I think I kind of conditioned myself over the years to kind of assume that people have found me because of the ending series. So it's always really refreshing when somebody tells me, like Sabrina, who's my PA, like she's amazing, and she found me as a reader. And she's a proofreader, and she was helping me do a bunch of things. And I'm like, should pay her to help me, you know? So, but the point is the whole time I kept thinking, up until I think a few weeks ago, I thought she found me through the ending series, and she's never even read it. So when she read The Raven Queen, as a proofreader for us. I'm saying that, and she loved it. And now she's like, oh my gosh, now I have to read the other series. And I was like, oh my God, you never, like, I forget, like, not all my readers read the ending series, you know?
Oh, that's so
because
funny.
so many people always do. And I don't know. It's just really, it's really cool. So
yeah.
Anyway, our egos are big enough for tonight. I guess we can move on. Otherwise we're very excited. So
yeah, I think it's always exciting. It's really exciting when you're getting the first feedback and it's positive on a new book. And it's technically the first book in a new series, even though World After is the prequel, but it's starting its own kind of storyline.
Right.
But it's just, I mean, there's always the anxiety when you first send it out, and then,
right,
you know, but it's exciting when your book baby is going out into the world and making friends.
Right. No, I agree. And to also shine some clarity, we also are aware that not everyone is going to love this book. So, but it's just exciting. Sure. Yeah. No, I see we're talking about how much people love it. And I'm like, I think a lot of people are going to be like, but not every, there are going to be some bad reviews. We are aware of this.
Yes.
But for
us.
now, like we're feeling good about it. So,
yeah.
Okay. Also, digressing here, but, moving on from that, I think for me, my biggest focus that I haven't talked a lot about, but I just keep dropping these little hints here and there, is I've been working on the pen name. I still haven't decided like how big I'm going to go with announcing it, as Lindsey knows. But everything I'm going to tell everybody right now who is listening, Scarlet St. James is live everywhere. She has a website. She has a
really
store.
Cool website.
She has a website. She has a store. She has profiles on all, retail platforms, Goodreads, everything. So anyway, and just to kind of explain, I have been working on this for a couple months, and because it's a lot more in depth. I knew it was going to be, so I've been putting off for about a year, but I think I'm finally good to go. And Scarlet it's very strange. Let me just tell you, talking about myself.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But Scarlet is going to be writing romance. So she's going to be writing historical romance, contemporary romance. She's going to be writing whatever romance I want, but she's going to be writing romance. And Lindsey is still going to be writing me, both for me. But Lindsey is also going to keep writing some romance in her stories, but they won't be actual romance, right? It's going to continue to be what it is, whether it's dystopian or post-apocalyptic or whatever adventure I want to write. But I just want to be able to kind of go in two different directions and work on different projects. And so anybody who is a romance reader, not a fantasy or post-apocalyptic reader who likes a little bit of a love story, but if you are a romance reader, then you can find information about Scarlet St. James pretty much everywhere. So,
and right now Scarlet just has the Saratoga Falls.
Yeah, right now I have a couple things that I'm kind of working on, but I still have there are some Lindsey projects that I need to finish up before I can go in and start working on whole new projects for Scarlet. So yeah, for now she just has, which if you already have read the Saratoga Falls love stories, you have already read Scarlet's first series. But they are completely rebranded, so at least
yes, they have really pretty new covers,
really cool new covers. So if you guys want to go take a look at those, at least that will be new to you. Again, those are on Scarlet's website or on Amazon. So anyways, I just want to make that announcement here, and we can put the links in the show notes. But I don't know how much I'm going to be cross promoting. Definitely less on the Lindsey side. I might be promoting Lindsey a little bit on the Scarlet side, but we'll see. Because I really just want to feel free and have some liberties when it comes to Scarlet, and not have everybody feeling like they have to read both. So
yeah,
anyways, that's that announcement for now. And before we dive into book stuff, well, I guess the book that we read for tonight, what other books have you perhaps been reading or listening to?
I just started book 8, I want to say it is, of The Hollows, which is, I can look it up real quick. I just started it tonight when I was making dinner. Black Magic Sanction.
I love all the names of her books.
They're all plays on Clint Eastwood movies.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of why they must sound familiar. I'm like, I feel like I've heard that before. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
I mean, like I've said before, it's my comfort read. So I can just kind of zone out while I'm making dinner and fall into the story. Yeah. What about you?
So you kind of know the story. So you and I are both audiobook listeners. We talk about this all the time. And I mentioned that there is a narrator that I recently found. He's a romance genre narrator. He's British. And I'm like obsessed with him. So essentially, I mean,
you have a crush on his voice.
Not really, but I mean, to the point where I emailed him. So, and I can talk about that in a second. But anyway, mostly I've been he has a lot of audiobooks, but I've been kind of listening to a few of them, trying to, I don't know, just listen to him more because I like his voice, I guess. But so the funny part of this story is I started hearing him do more like romancy stuff, and then I kept hearing a voice that I loved doing less romancy stuff and more like kind of women's fiction or whatever. And I was like, oh, I love those voices, but they had different names, and I'm not going to say what they are. But I was just like, oh, I really like these guys, and then I realized they were the same person. So long story short, Rebecca Woods is somebody, she is my narrator for the Ruinland series. And I don't know how it happened, but I guess, I don't know, I was looking at some of the books that she's done, and I saw a romance book that she did with this narrator, and I was like, oh my God, that's the narrator that I'm obsessed with, right? So then I just emailed him. I was like, hey, so hello from the US. But anyway, I introduced myself. I said, now that I realize that you are these two different people, and that you do a lot of not just romance, you do a lot of other things, I would love to work with you. And I talked to him about some of the like historical fantasy, dystopian fantasy stuff that I do, the romance stuff that I do. And he said, oh my gosh, it sounds so lovely. His words, I would love to work with you. Da, 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 da. Let me know whenever you're ready. And so I was just like so giddy. I was like giddy little schoolgirl. So anyways, long story short, I've been listening to a couple of his books. And yeah, so that's
But you're not going to tell us what they are.
I can tell you the one that the one right now that he does with Rebecca, I can tell you just because, but this is romance. It's really fun because so Rebecca, I mean, I don't actually know if she's from Canada or America or, you know, like the US or where she's from exactly, but she speaks as if she is from like, she's American English. But she does all my British stuff, and she's so good. And she also does a British accent in this too. So the series is called Grim and Beast Duet. And this is book 1, Tales You Win by Bea Paige. So it says performed by James Joseph and Rebecca Woods. So anyway, yeah, so super fun to hear them together. And so then I felt like that was kind of right. Lately, I've been trying to listen to universal signs, like the universe telling me, you know, certain things and listening to my gut. And I was like, I feel like I like this guy. Then I saw I did a book with Rebecca, and I was like, I feel like I have to reach out to him. So I did. And now I have a little audiobook email friend that I can reach out to whenever I want to bring him on a project. So
I know it can be so nerve-wracking to put yourself out there for these kinds of things, but I have only had good responses when I've done that, like with Julia and Stina. So, I mean,
yeah,
if I had been like too timid, if I'd been like my normal self and like not done it, I wouldn't have been able to work with some of the amazing narrators I have worked with. So
yeah. Isn't it really cool? Yeah. And then it's kind of a reminder. It's like they're just like us, right? They're just trying to put a book out, and they're just trying to like do whatever. And it's just like we're normal people, and then we have readers who are like, oh my gosh, it's so cool talking to you. And I'm just like, it's just me, but I get it. Like I get it now when I talk to it. And it's just so funny because if I met a famous actor, I mean, I'm sure I'd be excited, but it's so different for me. Like a narrator, because it's somebody I could actually talk to and meet, and somebody who I love their work, and then they could maybe work, I don't know. It's just a little different. I'm not sure how to describe it to listeners, but
yeah.
Anyway, so that was like the longest intro to one of our episodes ever, but I feel like we got a lot of good stuff in here. So
yeah, we did.
Okay, so School for Good and Evil. I am gonna read the description. Please, everybody who has not read it or watched the show on Netflix, because it was turned into a show on Netflix, or a movie, I'm sorry, on Netflix. You can decide now if you want to stop listening, but there will be spoilers ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So School for Good and Evil. With her glass slippers and devotion to good deeds, Sophie knows she'll earn top marks at the School for Good and join the ranks of past students like Cinderella, Rapunzel, and Snow White. Meanwhile, Agatha, with her shapeless black frocks and wicked black cat, seems a natural fit for the villains in the School of Evil. The two girls soon find their fortunes reversed. Sophie's dumped in the School for Evil and to take uglification, death curses, and henchman training, while Agatha finds herself in the School for Good, thrust among handsome princes and fair maidens for classes in princess etiquette and animal communication. But what if the mistake is actually the first clue into discovering who Sophie and Agatha really are? Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so I will start off by saying, you probably knew this, but I actually did not, that this is a middle grade book.
Yeah, so I thought it was YA, and then when I started listening, I was like, this is feeling very middle grade.
Yeah.
And so I looked it up, and it's like 8+.
Yeah. So
which I'm like, some of it feels very middle grade, and some other things I'm like, I would not want my middle grade reader
8-year-old to listen to. Yeah.
So definitely interesting. I don't know. I have so many thoughts about this.
Yeah. So okay. So on that note, you listened to it, yes?
Yes, I did listen to it.
What did you think?
The narrator did a great job. I listened. To be fair, I would say maybe she was kind of a slow talker. I did listen to it at 1.35 times, and I feel like I could have gone even faster, probably.
It's funny you say that, because I also thought she did an amazing job, but I also listened to it at 1.35 and was kept towards the end, just because it's a very long book, everybody.
It is.
I'm actually surprised how long it is for middle grade. It's really long. It was like a 10+ hour. I don't know. It was a very long book for a middle grade. But I also don't read them, so maybe they're usually that long.
I mean, it does make me curious to want to check out, like, what is the length of the first Harry Potter book?
It's I guess that's true. I bet you that's super long, actually.
Well, Sorcerer's Stone is the shortest of all the books. So, and then they get just kind of like longer and longer.
Oh, got it. Haven't read those. I know. But anyway, yeah. So I also did the same thing, though. I thought she did a really good job. She was not a bad narrator at all.
No, not at all. I would give her 5 out of 5 for narration. She did great.
Yeah, no, she did a great job. There was a lot of voices, and she did great with cadence and stuff. But yeah, it was a tiny bit slow. And because the book was so long, I also did listen to it at 1.35. And I think towards the end, I even bumped it up a little bit, because it was still sounded so normal as,
Yeah. Usually I don't go past 1.25 if I'm speeding up for any reason. But yeah, hers, because like faster than that, it starts to sound kind of like silly to me. But hers,
yeah, I agree.
Hers didn't. Hers sounded like that could have been how it was anyway. So.
Yeah. No, but overall did a great job. Did a really great job with that. So, I mean, you get the idea from the description. Two best friends. They're in this world where, kids, or I guess I should say children, I don't know, They are sometimes kidnapped to these schools where they are, you know, in these academies for good and evil. And I didn't really get it seemed like everybody, for me, and you tell me if I'm wrong, everybody who was in the school for evil and the school for good knew that they were going to those schools off the bat, and that was where they belonged.
Well, I think that everybody else, so the readers, Sophie and Agatha, were from like the real world, and then everybody else was from like fairy tale world.
Oh, I did get that they were called readers,
were from outside the fairy tales, which is why they're called readers, and then everybody else was from inside fairy tales.
Because they were
like there's
the
King
children.
Arthur's,
yeah,
King
they
Arthur's
were the children of
everybody was like a descendant of some other fairy tale person. That was my understanding.
I didn't really pick up on that, but that makes sense because they were calling them readers.
Except there was something really weird about how like Agatha kept asking like the other towns, and they'd be like, what other towns? Like their town, whatever it was called, was like the only outside town outside of fairy tales, was like the only town in existence or something. I don't know. It was very confusing. So
I don't know. So overall, so it was a long book. I would say, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but it was probably around the 500-page length. I would guess. And then the Netflix film that they made out of it was like 2 hours and like 20 minutes or something like that. I mean, it makes sense. It's a very long book. It was a fairly long movie. But there were also a lot of differences.
There were a lot of differences. And I do feel like, I know I'm going to talk about a lot of this stuff when we get in, but I feel like there were a lot of problematic things with the book. I feel like they made a lot of changes to the movie to try to make up for a lot of those things. So for the most part, I felt like the changes I liked, even though for me overall the movie kind of fell flat.
Also. Yeah, no, I agree. And it's hard too, you guys, because this isn't our genre. I mean, it's our genre, but like the adult version. It is a children's story, right?
It is, but it was all over the place in terms of like, there were a lot of things in there that I was like, this is not appropriate for children.
Well, and we can talk about it more later too, but there was a lot of mixed messages too, as far as, you know, black, not color of skin, but like evil, good and evil being inherent, and like what's in the middle, like nobody can be something else, and like women's roles and men's roles, and
there was just like a lot of stuff that I was like, I hope that this gets like turned on its head or something, and it never really did. Not fully. There were a couple things that did, but I was really hoping that at the beginning I was like, okay, I will forgive a lot of this if it gets like, if like by the end it's like made fun of kind of.
Well, the other part of it though is that because they're in the world of fairy tales, they're working within the construct that's already been like people are familiar with, which is the princess saves the prince, or the prince saves the princess, and the princess has a fluffy dress and she has beautiful, and she like, there is, you know, like, I don't know. It's yeah, as I was saying before, there's a lot of mixed messages in there, which I think makes for interesting conversation though. So we can talk about the characters in a second. So it sounds like you may have liked the movie better. But what is something about the story as a whole that you either I don't know, I guess how the story obviously didn't sit well with you. So
no, it didn't. I would say I liked Agatha's character.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a whole list of dislikes that I wrote down, so
all right. So if you're comparing the story, the things you didn't like about the story, what are some things about, well, I don't know. How do you want to do this? Should we talk about the things you didn't like about the story, the things you liked about the movie that you didn't like about the story, if that makes sense?
Why don't we talk about the things we didn't like, or we can talk about it. Things we didn't like about the story first, and then we can talk about the movie and maybe things we thought that they fixed or
let's dive in, girl.
Changes they made for the better, I guess. I hated, and this was one of the things that I really wanted to have turned on its head, and that was almost just like rubbed in even more, which was I really, really disliked the whole good is attractive, evil is ugly thing. I really, really despised that. And then even by the end, so like they tried to like make up for it a little bit by like Agatha didn't actually change her appearance. It was more her attitude that made her beautiful or whatever by the end, because everyone was talking about how ugly she was and she had like these bug eyes and like at the beginning. And then by the end, it's like she believes she's beautiful, so everyone sees her as beautiful. So at least they make it sound like she didn't actually go through a physical transformation, which was going to really piss me off if like she's good, so now she believes she's good, so all of a sudden she transforms into a beautiful butterfly. I was gonna be like, that is so dumb. But the whole thing about Sophie, and as she embraces her evil, she turns into like this ugly old hag thing. And then when the evil and good schools reverse, like because they make decisions like evil attacks, whatever, and the kids from the school of the good then kind of like become sort of evil, and the kids from the school of evil become good, sort of. They go through this physical visual transformation where they become more beautiful. The evil kids become more beautiful, attractive, and the good kids who are now evil become like darker, malformed, and like, and I just really, really hated not so much the good is attractive, evil is ugly, but that attractive is good, ugly is evil. I hated that. I thought that was a terrible message. I would not want my kids to read that.
Yeah, do you think that, because if we compare the story and the movie, I'm just trying to think like,
I think that they made up for it a lot in the movie. Like there wasn't that big, I mean, it's kind of hard because it's Hollywood and like everybody's beautiful. So, but like Charlize Theron was the head of the school for evil, and obviously she's beautiful. And I mean, there were a lot of beautiful people on both sides. So I think that and obviously Agatha was not ugly.
Oh gosh, I know. And that was one of the biggest, but she's also a much stronger character in the movie as well. Like I feel like she's awesome. Like she's like the glue that keeps everything together in the movie. It's funny that you're talking about the good and the evil and beautiful and ugly and that sort of thing, because I also think that on the movie side, I don't know, I mean, they did it in the book, but I don't think it was as flamboyant in the book as it was in the movie, that they also made the people who are good really kind of ditzy and dumb. And then the people who are really, or that are evil, are like clever and witty, and I don't know. So I picked up on that too, because when I was listening to the book, which is also interesting because if I remember correctly, in the movie, they called the head mistress of the good school is Dovey, but in the book they call her like Dovey or something like that. They call her something completely, it's different. Like Dove to me is like purity, and so it's different, right? But she, in the movie, she's very like topical. She's very, like just.
But at the end, didn't she like give some hint that she like used to do something more? Like,
no, that was the woman who, the beautiful Asian like cranky etiquette or beautification teacher. She used to be the historian or something.
She's like, I don't give a shit about smiles.
Yeah, exactly. But no, the what's her name? Something Carrie Washington or whatever her name is, who played like the main headmistress,
the head of the good school.
She was just so over the top, and I was just like, oh my god, I can barely handle her character. When I don't feel like she was quite like that in the book. In fact, in the book, there was even a conversation between her and Agatha when Agatha was talking about how ugly she is, that she kind of made her see that like beauty is not just what's on the outside. She had a lot more depth, and I appreciated that part about the book because she's not necessarily, she's pretty annoying in the movie, I thought, in the movie.
Yeah. There were definitely some missed opportunities where I felt like they could have just added a little more depth for some of the secondary characters in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty fun concept overall. I mean, I would have had fun writing something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what else?
I can just go down my list if you.
Yeah. Let's. Go
okay,
ahead.
So there was another division that I really disliked which was on the School for Good, the gender dichotomy and the way that it really was like the girls were basically taught to be useless and just like look pretty,
sitting
and,
on
like,
the sidelines doing their hair and makeup,
try to entice a prince to save you. That was basically it. And then the princes are like sword fighting and doing stuff, and you're supposed to follow what your prince says, and like,
and if you don't get asked to the ball, you fail.
You
and
fail,
if you don't,
and if you fail, you could get turned into a plant. Like, I mean, there were just and that never really got. I feel like Agatha fought against that a lot, but it never really got like overturned. That was one of the things that I was like, okay, I'll forgive this if it gets flipped on its head.
It was purposely done so that we could prove a point.
But it never did, and it became a sticking point between Agatha and Tedros, especially as it got further towards the end, and it was just really frustrating, this whole like sentiment of like women are supposed to listen to what the men say and depend on the men, and I was just really frustrated with this. Another thing that I would not want my children to read. So
yeah, no, I mean, it all kind of stuck out to me too, for sure.
Yeah,
I did not catch on to the ugly is evil and pretty. Like, I get it now that you say that. I totally see that, but that wasn't anything that. What does that say about me as a person?
You like fairy tales. I don't know. No, I mean, it really pissed me off a lot. Yeah. Like, because because I'm thinking about like my oldest doesn't read yet. He's just learning his letters, but I think about young kids' books in terms of like, would I want my kids to read this eventually? No, I would not, because I don't like the messages that are in it. I don't want them to learn to think that because like, you know, their neighbor is like kind of witchy looking is evil or something.
Yeah,
like,
no, I mean, totally get it.
Because somebody has warts on their face, that doesn't make them evil. Like,
yeah, and it's funny because now the more I'm talking about it with you, the more I realize, especially when I was watching the movie, like it didn't register like ugly is evil and beautiful is good, because I was just I mean, it's just so ridiculous, because I remember staring at what's his name, Holt or Hot, what's his name,
Hort or
whatever, the guy who likes Sophie or whatever, who's the man wolf or wereman or whatever
Captain
the hell he
Hook's
was,
son, right?
Oh yeah. And every time I saw him, all I could do was stare at him. I'm like, what is wrong with his face? Like, he just always looked like strange with like blackness on his face, like he was eating something. And then his tiny little werewolf hair. I know. It's like, this movie is so bad. There's so many distractions in it. And Dennis kept walking in when I was trying to watch it. He goes, "Is it still on?" I'm like, "Yeah, you definitely don't want to watch this one. You're not gonna like it." Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah. All right. What's next on your list?
Okay, so this is I'm going to talk about Sophie's character in a minute, but this is related to Sophie, but this is more about a different topic. So the schoolmaster, who is a grown-ass man, is grooming this, like 12-year-old girl, 14. How old is she? Like, not older than 14. This girl to be his true love and kisses her on page in a book for kids.
Yeah.
Like,
I
how
almost thought
did
I
this even
misunderstood
like
that.
make it out into the world? This is straight up pedophilia. Like,
which again goes to your, well, I guess it wasn't fixed in the movie.
I don't care if he's evil. I don't care. I mean, this is a book for kids, for 8+. I don't want to show kids who are 8 years old or 12 years old or 14 years old, or especially not impressionable 14-year-old girls, that it's okay for you to kiss your grown-ass teacher.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, because I was just trying to figure out. I was gonna say, at least in the movie, they remedied that, but they didn't actually.
No, she kisses. They seem older. Maybe they aged up the kids. Maybe they're like 16 or 17.
They also, I mean, it's the same thing as where you think Lawrence Fishburne is old, but then
really
he
becomes more like maybe he's like in his lower 20s or something.
Yeah,
like,
so they definitely like made it a little more acceptable for sure. But still, when you say it like that, it's like, yeah, actually, it's been how many years, and he's trying to like get with anyway,
a child.
Yeah,
I mean, extremely disturbing to me. Again, I know we talked about the whole pedophilia thing in Twilight. This I don't see as okay. I do not see this as okay. And then there's Sophie.
take a breath.
Sophie, who is a terrible person, but she literally murders a bunch of people. I don't care if they're turned into wolves or fairies or whatever. Like, they were kids. They were kids just like her, and they failed at school and got turned into wolves and fairies. And she murders them all. But somehow she still gets a redemption arc because she sacrifices herself for Agatha, the like true friendship, love, kiss or whatever, which could also be seen as like some sort of weird like male gaze looking at girls kissing. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. And then she gets brought back to life.
Yeah, I also I liked the spin. I like the way they spun it in the movie about how it's all about friendship, and friendship wins out in the end, because that's essentially where they went with it. But she did a lot of really horrible things, which the Prince Teddy kept telling Agatha, like, you can't keep forgiving her for doing these things. And she kept saying, no, she's good. She's good. She's good. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a toxic relationship.
Extremely toxic. Like, Sophie was less evil in the movie, and like they had a genuine friendship before in the movie. In the books, it was very much not a genuine friendship before. Like, they were taken to the schools. But and in the movie, Sophie was just less bad. Like, overall, I felt like she was less bad. She didn't murder a bunch of people. But in the book, like, she over and over again, she does nothing. Like, she makes promises to Agatha and then she breaks them. Mm-hmm. She over and over again, Agatha bends over backwards. Agatha saves her life. Like,
gives
so
up
many
her own
things.
Happiness.
Yes. So many things. And Sophie is constantly like hot and cold, like berating Agatha, telling Agatha how evil that she's evil, because look at you, you belong in the school for evil. Basically, you're ugly, so you belong in the school for evil, but I'm pretty, so I belong in the school for good. She was just there was nothing redeeming about her other than the fact that at the very end, she steps in front of the pen
or whatever.
Yeah. And gets stabbed by it instead of Agatha. I don't feel like one good deed, even if it costs you your life, earns you redemption for doing a ton of terrible, terrible things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I totally see that. I do have to say this about the movie, though. It had some pretty bad CGI work. And I have to say that Sophie's hag witch attire was probably the best special effects they did in the whole movie, because it was pretty terrifying.
It was. I was like, and she's like a very small person anyway, which also added to the kind of ick factor of the kiss. It just made her seem more like,
that makes sense too.
Childlike.
Yeah,
I don't know. She was a very like a tiny person, just like little, like short. And so then when she was like the old hag, she just looked like a child hag. I mean, I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. What did you think about because in the actual story, not in the movie, Agatha turns into a cockroach for a lot of the story.
Yes, she
what
does.
Did you think about that specific choice? And they left it out of the movie. They only did the dove.
Yeah, I don't know. That was strange. Was that, I didn't even really think too much about that. Like that she turned into a cockroach. Was that supposed to like suggest that she was evil because she's like
I don't know, but it was so random. It was such a random. And then there's this whole everyone's like, oh, there's an outbreak of cockroaches in the dorms we have.
There was like a whole section of the books, like the whole what was that called? The theater thing that was like this
the circus and all that. Yeah. That wasn't
that wasn't in there. That's where Sophie killed all the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked in the movie, I liked that Sophie was less evil. And she had a better explanation for doing the bad things, the blood magic that she was like,
they were very clear on
whatever.
That, yeah.
Like
she's like getting possessed sort of.
Yeah. I thought that made her more redeemable. She had literally no redemption. I saw no like, she had.
Was there even blood magic in the book?
Not that I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. So
and I watched the movie like in the middle of reading it. So I was kind of waiting for it to show up, and I don't think it ever did.
I remember that too. And that was essentially the whole reason in the movie why she turned bad anyway, was because of the blood magic. So that she was essentially like coerced into acceptance.
Yeah, I liked it. In the book, I didn't like with Sophie's character. In the book, I didn't buy their friendship at all. Like it was just Sophie didn't care. And in the movie, their friendship was definitely much more believable and felt like actually equal. That whole thread, I felt like
even in the movie, like they hint about her mom being a witch, or Agatha's mom being a witch, but they never actually say that that Agatha herself is a witch, only that everyone makes fun of her and her family and calls her a witch. So in the book, it's very clear that she's a witch. But to me, in the movie, she didn't want to go to the school. She didn't really have a magic bone in her body. She didn't care. She didn't, she didn't even have the black cat. Like she had nothing. So she was not witchy at all.
She had a hairless cat. Didn't she have a hairless cat?
Oh, she did have a hairless cat. That's hilarious. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that hair, it was a character of its own.
But the hair at the beginning.
Her hair, yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot. It was intense.
Yeah. But yeah, I think she was definitely the strongest character in both versions, but she was like amazing in the movie in comparison. So
yeah, I felt like she was the best part of both, but she was even better in the movie.
Yeah. They did good.
I also really dislike that there was in neither the book nor the movie any like consequence for Tedros for killing the creature that was a transformed student.
Yeah,
in fact, the book it was like a
bird of like a
it was a statues that come to life.
In the book it was a gargoyle. But not in the movie. Yeah.
The movie it was like this creepy bird thing. But yeah,
they collected the kids and brought them. Yeah.
Yeah. He kills it as Sophie's trying to transform it back into the kid that it was.
Agatha.
Sorry, as Agatha. Sorry.
Yeah.
As Agatha's trying to transform it. And she's like screaming at him and she's so mad. And like nothing, there's no consequences.
Not even the she a professor? What the dean or whatever she is. Even she's standing right there watching the whole thing and does absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and she knows that it was a student once, the creature. A few days earlier, it was a student. And even if that's like the way it works at the school, the fact that Agatha, that this isn't a sticking point for Agatha later on, the fact that he killed her friend, I'm like, you just forget that happened?
I guess that's true too.
Like, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that happened. I was like, that's not, wouldn't just go, it was just like swept away. Like, oh, it's a fairy tale. Like, I don't know. I feel like these are two, like, Agatha's from the real world, so she would care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel you.
Yeah.
What else on your list? Anything else you want to bring up before we move
on? Those were my big dislikes.
The big guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're all very valid, and I did notice all of them actually. Especially now that you bring them up, and like, yeah, that makes total sense.
It also was like the book. Sorry, one more dislike. The book was like a lot of white people. It seemed like a lot of white people, which is interesting because the author is not a white person. But I thought that was an interesting choice. Like, everybody's described as like pale and like.
Well, they definitely changed that up in the.
Yeah. So that was also something I really liked about the movie, was the diversity factor.
Yeah. What was there something else about them? Anything else about the movie that you really liked that kind of redeemed the retelling a little bit for you?
Not anything that I wrote down, but let me think. I don't know. I mean, it was kind of cool looking, I guess. Like,
yeah, I think for me, one of the things I already mentioned was I like that it was focused on friendship.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they both were, but because they did such a more believable, less off-putting job in the movie, I really liked that it was about friendship. And even at the end, when she could stay with her prince, she's like, no, I'm gonna leave with my best friend, even though my best friend's a horrible person.
Yeah. In the movie, it's definitely about friendship. In the book, I wouldn't even say there's a friendship for it to be about. It's not even
I mean, they end it like it is because they go home. Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely not as solid and believable as it is in the.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing that they did really well with the movie is they did a whole part before, like they did a bunch of scenes before they even went to the school, so you can see their friendship, which you didn't get to see that in the book.
There was a foundation.
Get to see Sophie taking care of Agatha and Agatha taking care of Sophie. Because they were both, outliers, and they were both bullied, and they both hated their lives, and they were there for each other. So I think that's where they really solidified the friendship in the very beginning before they went and replaced.
But I think in the book, you start off in Sophie's head, and you get to see just how self-centered and vain she is. And even in the way that she views Agatha, like, there's no friendship there.
Yeah. And then Agatha gives it all up and goes home with Sophie.
I know.
Anyway. Yeah, the one place that Agatha ever really felt like she belonged, actually, too. So that's sad. Anyway.
So Sophie gets her way again, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Even though Agatha was the one who wanted to go home, but she wanted to go home so Sophie wouldn't have to be like in the school for evil, or I don't know, like all of Agatha's decisions were very selfless.
Yeah. I meant to look this up and I forgot. Was Cate Blanchett the narrator's voice?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
She has such a great voice.
That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely did a star-studded cast for the movie.
They did, which is why it's disappointed that it really did kind of fall flat.
Did I ever tell you that I saw Lawrence Fishburne at the airport? I sat next to him. Dennis's brother, and I think it was I think we were going to Costa Rica to see his parents, and Lawrence Fishburne was sitting next to us waiting for the flight, and he was reading the newspaper, and I looked at Dennis and I was like, I think that's Lawrence Fishburne. And of course it was. We didn't say anything. We just left it alone. But he looked so normal. And then he boarded before we even got on, obviously, to get him in first class and stuff. But it was really cool to just like sit next to him at the airport and be like, this is awkward and cool at the same time. Like, we're just pretending we don't know who he is. Pretending. He's just reading the newspaper with his baseball cap and like his tennis shoes on. And yeah, it was funny. Yeah. Anyways, I don't know that. I don't know why now whenever I see him, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think back to that. I mean, it's been a while and he already looks so different. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how different do I look? How much have I aged since the last time, since this moment in my history? Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, okay. I feel like we did it kind of out of order, but we kind of hit on all my questions. So I know you kind of touched on the things that you liked, didn't like, but is there anything else that kind of sticks out in your mind that you wanted to bring up about it, or?
I mean, not really, other than like, I do not recommend this for children. I guess like if you're a parent considering this book for your, 10-year-old or something, I would not recommend it. I do not think it is appropriate with
which is really interesting because it has a lot of reviews. It has thousands of reviews and has very high reviews.
A while reading through them, trying to understand it. I was like, I don't get it. I still don't get it after reading through them. I'm like, I don't. Maybe I'm too caught up on the problems. I don't know.
Well, I think it's different too. So for me, I'm not a mom, so I don't think about the things the same way that you do because it doesn't even register to me that I need to because I'm obviously a 40-year-old woman. So I don't have to like think that way. But it's completely different for you. Like you said, you're trying to figure out if you would let your kids read it or not. And I think that's a really important consideration,
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder which age group really does read this? Like, because you also know that, 7th graders aren't going on and rating this book on Amazon.
No. Yeah. So a lot of the negative reviews that I read were like parents saying, I'm glad I read this before letting my kid read it. I'm not going to let my kid read this kind of stuff. And I'm like,
okay, well, that's good. That's validating for you, I'm sure. Cause then I don't feel like,
And I think some of the positive ones I read, I felt like these were people who were reading it for themselves, kind of. So maybe the people who do enjoy it and rate it highly are adults reading middle grade. I don't know.
I haven't read Harry Potter, and I know you have, which is why I'm bringing this up. That is tailored towards children, right?
I believe it is middle grade, at least the first few books.
And you feel like that is more conducive and like actually fits the age group far more than this book, right?
Yeah. I mean, first off, there's no element in the first few books. There's no element of sexuality or sexualization of anybody. Which I don't think should be in a middle grade book.
It's just a bunch of kids that are going to school.
I mean, there's bullies, there's danger. I mean, there's like black magic and stuff like that. But it definitely feels a lot more age appropriate. I would totally let my kids read Harry Potter.
Interesting.
Yeah. Definitely.
Just because, again, I've never read it. I feel like
there's like the good and evil elements in Harry Potter are a lot more complex. I know that people have a lot of problems with J.K. Rowling, and I'm not going to talk about her at all. But
right, I get what
you're saying. The stories I feel like are really rich and complex in talking and talking about sacrifice, and there's like lots of like corruption, and there's like some adult themes. I mean, there's a reason that it was so popular with people of all ages.
It resonated, with so many people.
But it really, like, Harry, it's third person, but it's third person close, and Harry is, what is he, 8? I think, when he gets his letter to go to Hogwarts, and then, or 10, or
really,
maybe he's 10. But and then each book is a year at school. So then it ages up until he graduates. And so I think most people agree that the books feel, I know I and the people who I've spoken to who are fans of the series feel like each book, like the books mature with Harry because you're in his head,
Yeah.
So as he gets older, it feels like it's for an older audience.
Makes sense.
So yeah, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And that's why I was asking, because I know that there's magic and sorcery and danger and violence and stuff. So that's why I was just curious. And I obviously don't know what the themes are, because again, I haven't read it or watched the movies. So
I feel like, at least, well, because there's a lot of stuff about like Harry and his parents who kind of like sacrificed themselves for him, the boy who lived. And like the reason he lives is because his mom did this like kind of spell on him that protected him with her love, basically. As her like dying like moment. And so there's a lot about like family and sacrifice, and I feel like there's just a lot of really complex themes, and there's a lot of cool things that I like when my boys are old enough to read it, that we can like unpack and talk about, and like just like I'm excited for when they can read those books.
Yeah. Maybe I'll read them with you guys, since I never read them before.
I mean, there's a lot of really complex things. I mean, like I remember in some of the books where I was just like sobbing while I was reading them. Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's stuff that happens, and it's like, and like people die and stuff, but at the heart, it's about like friendship and for people who understand like story structure at all, or like the hero's journey, there's recently been like a lot of stuff done about the heroine's journey, and people have argued that Harry is a heroine in that, not that he's a girl, but that the heroine requires companions to accomplish their tasks. So they like acquire their companions, and their lowest moment is like when they're isolated from their companions. And that's Harry's whole arc, is like,
interesting.
Yeah, it's about like working together, friendship, like it's a lot of really great stuff that I really like in there. So
cool.
Yeah. I mean, I would have like brushed up on my hair. It's been a really long time since I read any Harry Potter.
Oh, no. I was just, that's, I mean, I already learned a lot that I didn't know before, because again, I'm very unfamiliar with it. But I was just curious, because it is so easy to, I mean, in this day and age, you can market a book however you want, right? I mean, you really can. You can call it whatever you want, and you have to rely on, as a reader, you have to rely on your reviews to tell you what kind of book you're getting into.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just to like draw a comparison, sorry to like beat a dead horse here, but like Hagrid, who is one of the most amazing characters in the Harry Potter series, he's a half giant. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with
at least the long
character.
Hair. Yeah.
He's half giant, so he's huge. I think the actor actually may have died, but which is really sad, because he's an amazing character. Like him in that role is amazing, but he is the biggest heart, and he's not like, attractive, but he's like this amazingly good person in the stories. And I feel like that is a huge differentiation from what we just read, where that would never show up in there. And that is the kind of message that I would love for my kids to see, that it doesn't matter what you look like, you can still be a great person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know there's a lot of people who don't care so much about like, they think like people can like figure it out for themselves, differentiate, and like it doesn't matter what you read or video games you play or whatever, but I guess I just care. I care.
I mean, people have kids so they can mold them the way they feel is right? So like, you do whatever you got to do. I mean, I would be the same way though, I mean, I wouldn't be with my husband if his values and his, wasn't similar to mine, and we didn't think the same way. And, so I totally get it. Yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
I mean, I didn't know this episode was going to devolve into a like my philosophy on middle grade books and parenting my children.
It's okay. Next episode, we're going to be talking about a completely different type of book. So it will be different. But before we go into that, do we have anything else? We good to go on this? Are you going to keep reading the series? I'm going to say probably not.
No.
Okay. Yeah,
no.
Yeah. And for me, honestly, I mean, there are other things that I didn't care for about the book, but for me, it wasn't what I enjoy listening to. I kept feeling like I would look at it and it would be 3.5 more hours. And I'd look again. I'm like, there's still 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like I thought a whole hour passed. So it's just not my genre. And like I said, it was the narration was very lovely and it was great, but it just isn't my genre. So I definitely won't keep reading. But for all the people who did enjoy it, I'd be interested to know like how much more crazy it gets, because there's like there's 5, 6, 7 books or something.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, well, for now, that's it for this episode. So thank you for joining us and listening, everyone. Don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode, links and book recs, and all the other random things we talked about this time. We'll be back next time to chat about the book talk, book sensation, Legends and Lattes, which some of you may have heard of, by Travis Baldry. And I'm really excited because it has a really fun cover with what looks like an ogre. I mean, I haven't read it. I don't know if there's actually an ogre on there, but it's a very fun loving cover, and they have they're like baristas. So I'm just like, let's read it.
It does look fun.
Yeah, I heard that it's a very nice, fun read. So we're excited. We've never read anything like this before. I don't think you have anyway. I definitely haven't. So we're going to check that out next time. In the meantime, if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review wherever you listen, and be sure to join us on Discord. We'll have those links for you as well, because that's where the Lindseys are hanging out these days, people.
Yeah.
We no longer have a Facebook page. So, yeah, happy reading, listening, and until next time, take care. Bye.
Happy reading.